We are back with ICT's Mark Trahant, who recently spoke with Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs Bryan Newland about the agency's focus on climate change. Mark, welcome back. This is such a broad subject.
Hello, Aaliyah, and that's exactly right. And if you look at the agency's budget, they're seeking $120 million to fund 146 projects in tribal communities. When I sat down with Secretary Newland, I wanted to know more about what's ahead for Indigenous communities, especially when we think about the impact of climate change on food. We know game patterns are changing, fishing areas are moving, and what is the process for working together to adapt? One of the impacts we know that's going to occur is what it's going to do to traditional food. Again, Alaska might be a place to take an advantage of that, where game patterns are changing, fishing areas are changing. How do we manage and work together on that sort of thing?
Well, I mentioned earlier that we have to have a yes-and approach. So we have to prepare for the impacts of climate change, but we've also got to continue to make investments in slowing and stopping climate change from advancing. And so we've seen that with the Inflation Reduction Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. This is really a global effort that the president and his administration, Secretary Holland, are helping to lead. But when we look at things like ecosystems that support traditional foods, up in Alaska, we have an initiative called the Gravel to Gravel Initiative that we are working with Alaska Native communities and other communities in Alaska to restore salmon and protect their habitat. We're doing that in other places through things like dam removal, investments in fish hatcheries, and all sorts of things to protect traditional foods. And not just fish, lots of other places around the country where we are supporting ecosystem restoration with an eye toward protecting those traditional food sources as we deal with climate change.
And in all of these things, sometimes there's a plus sign on the ledger because there may be new, for example, growing opportunities that don't exist now.
Yeah, the thing about this whole effort is we want to make sure tribes are leading this, and that it's not the BIA of old, where we're coming in and saying we've got all the answers for you, and we'll show you how it's done. It's really about us making these investments in tribes and Indian people, providing support, and then making sure that they're leading these efforts on decisions about whether to rethink about what's a traditional food and how to grow it and how to use it. We don't want to be making those decisions for Indian people from here in the federal government.
I want to close by asking about young people, and it's really easy to be dark about climate change, but on the other hand, if you're a young person, your career is set if you have an interest in any of these areas.
Well, I think I love talking about the opportunities for young people and really the opportunities for our country when we engage with young people and get them involved. The president hosted a tribal youth summit last fall, and I had the opportunity to attend that and sit at the table with some young leaders from across Indian country. And I was really impressed. And in fact, I told one of the groups I was talking with that if I were put in a position of competing with them for jobs and opportunities out of college, I never would have measured up, because a lot of young people from across Indian country, they are pushing doors open that Indian people haven't had open for a long time, and they're so talented, and they're not accepting the status quo or the old way of doing things. And that's the other thing that makes me really hopeful. We are trying really hard to make sure that we bring young folks into government through internships or hiring here to bring that new way of thinking into our work. And for me as a leader now, I view it as part of my responsibility to help open those pathways for folks. But I'm just really impressed by the talent that's out there across Indian country in terms of young people and excited to see what it's going to do for all of us.